Talk about a crusher. Yes! Oh!
Are you kidding me?
And gone!
Welcome back to the Schoolyard Sports podcast. We're now on episode 230. So 230 episodes through, and I got an action-packed episode planned for you. I've got an interview with St. John's basketball star Joson Sanon. On top of that, we're going to be talking college football. We're going to be talking Carlos Alcaraz winning the U.S. Open, NBA, NFL, and so much more. So stay tuned for an action-packed episode 230. Let's start off episode 230, how we always do, with our headlines in the NFL. Well, the Eagles kicked off last week's start of the NFL season with a win over the Dallas Cowboys. Great game, just not for Jalen Carter. The next game was Chargers versus the Chiefs. Surprised me a little bit. We're going out to Brazil, and the Chargers win that game. Now, last year, the Brazil game was Eagles versus the Packers. The Eagles won that game, and the Eagles won the Super Bowl. Not going to say the Chargers are going to win the Super Bowl, but it might be a good sign for them going forward. Buccaneers had a nice one Sunday over the Atlanta Falcons. Baker Mayfield, Bucky Irving, Mike Evans keeping that offensive trio on go. Cincinnati Bengals, my Super Bowl pick. The offense looked lackluster, but the defense really impressed me. Now you're going up against Joe Flacco and you're going up against the Browns, but still, good win for the Cincinnati Bengals. Always good to get a win in the NFL because there's no playoff committee like college football. The Indianapolis Colts did something they haven't done in years, and that's score without Peyton Manning. Peyton Manning was the last quarterback for Indianapolis to score on 4 straight possessions. Daniel Jones did that this time. What I said on my local radio spot this week was, Daniel Jones is a smart quarterback. He's never been around smart players. He's never been around smart coaches. Shane Steichen is a football genius, and they've got good players around him now in Jonathan Taylor, in a very good offensive line, and some solid receivers. This is what you can do with Daniel Jones at quarterback, and that showed on Sunday against the Miami Dolphins. Las Vegas Raiders squeaked away with the win over the New England Patriots. I'm not too excited about the Raiders. Ashton Genty, only 40 yards in the day, but nice win for them. Arizona Cardinals took down the Houston Texans. Good win for the Cardinals. Marvin Harrison touchdown for my fantasy team. Thank you. Texans, more of an off year for them this year with their injuries. Pittsburgh Steelers might have produced the second best game of the week against the New York Jets. Almost scoring in every drive. Aaron Rodgers was on fire. Justin Fields played great, but we all know he can't win when his opponent scores over 21 points. Still hasn't happened in his NFL career. Aaron Rodgers and the Steelers were on go on Sunday. For the Washington Commanders, they took down my New York Giants. Tough game for the Giants. Good signs of the Commanders. Zach Ertz, Jane Daniels, Ja'Cory, Krosky, Merritt playing well in that one. My rookie fantasy running back. Jacksonville Jaguars got a win over the Carolina Panthers. The game nobody cares about, so we're not going to talk about that much. Denver Broncos defense played well against Tennessee Titans. The offense wasn't great. Bo Nix's accuracy could have used a little bit of work, but Cam Ward didn't have much receivers and didn't have a great offensive line in his debut. That's why Denver got the win on Sunday. San Francisco 49ers got the win over the Seattle Seahawks, but it came with a price. George Kittle going to be out a few weeks, and Jake Moody, who they thought could be their great kicker one day, has been cut. The former third-round pick number 99, who was great his rookie year, got hurt his second season, will be done with the San Francisco 49ers. They'll be moving on to a new kicker after they thought Moody was their franchise cornerstone. Green Bay Packers, they got a nice one Sunday over the Detroit Lions. Dan Campbell and the Lions, I think it might be an off year for them. And for the Packers, Jordan Love got that offense rolling early. Los Angeles Rams got a nice one Sunday. They're rolling in to 1-0, the nice showdown this week. Bills, game of the week, as we all know, against the Baltimore Ravens. My thoughts on that game are, at the end of the game, with about 4 minutes left, everything had to go right for the Bills, and only one thing had to go right for the Ravens. Whether it was get a stop, get a first down, have the Bills miss a field goal, have the Bills not get a touchdown, do anything, hold on to the football, and you win that game. For the Bills, it was like, okay, we have to score a touchdown. We have to get the ball back. We have to score another touchdown. We have to get the ball back again. We have to kick a field goal, and then we win. The Ravens could have easily won that game, but they didn't. And congratulations to the Buffalo Bills for that win. That's why I'm not picking the Ravens to win the Super Bowl, because they do this every year. You think they're going to be great, and at the last moment, they switch up on you, just like they did in that Week 1 game against the Bills. On Monday Night Football, we had a great game, an NFC North showdown between the Vikings and the Bears, where J.J. McCarthy, my Michigan guy, go blue, took down Caleb Williams. Now, Caleb Williams looked solid for about 15 plays, but don't we all in scripted offense under Ben Johnson? For J.J. McCarthy, he looked great when the going got rough. He got 3 touchdowns in that fourth quarter. Great second half after the pick 6. And the Vikings might just have a leader at quarterback because they have a great roster. And then might just have their quarterback of the future now. In the MLB, Anthony Rizzo has retired. Rizzo, obviously an awesome player throughout his career. Sad to see him retire, but hopefully a Hall of Famer once all said and done at his time at the ballot box. Now, MLB season coming down to the wire. My Mets are in playoff trouble. A lot of teams are in playoff trouble. Some teams are surging, like the San Francisco Giants. What's going to happen with the Yankees? Who's going to win MVP? All things we're going to break down later on in this episode. But that's about it for the headlines in MLB. In tennis, Carlos Alcaraz won the U.S. Open. It was that dang haircut. That's why he won it over Jannik Sinner. Great final. Carlos Alcaraz finishing out the year the strong way, winning 2 Grand Slams. Jannik Sinner also winning 2 Grand Slams in Wimbledon in Australia. Alcaraz, French, and the U.S. Open. Great season for tennis and the Grand Slams. And that's about for the headlines this week. Now, Schoolyard Sports NFL Game Day, Week 2 of the NFL season. Let's hop into it. Thursday Night Football, tonight's game, so you already know the result of this by the time this episode comes out. Commanders versus the Packers. I might be wrong here, but I'm going to go with the Packers in this one. Jordan Love, I think they looked too good last week. Commanders look good too, but they played the Giants. The Packers played the number 1 seed in the NFC last season at home. Packers over the Commanders. Next one, Jaguars versus the Bengals. Like I said, Jaguars were boring last week. So were the Bengals, but the Bengals, I think, are the better team. Joe Burrow continues to outshine Trevor Lawrence in the NFL. Burrow and the Bengals over the Jaguars. Bears versus the Lions. Ben Johnson versus Dan Campbell. Mentor versus mentee. The mentor always wins. Lions over the Bears. Patriots versus the Dolphins. Now, the Dolphins might be the worst team in the NFL. But that's a conversation for later in the episode, and that's why I'm picking the Patriots right here. Drake May looked good last week, just had a tough game against the Raiders. So let's go with the Patriots over the Dolphins. Bills versus the Jets, easy one for me. Jets looked good last week, but the Bills looked amazing, and the Bills are going to win this one easily. 41-15, actually. Bills over the Jets. Seahawks versus the Steelers. Let's go with the Steelers in this one. Seahawks, a little bit underwhelming last week. I thought you should have won that game against a banged-up Brock Purdy, against a team that was missing field goals, against a team that doesn't have any receivers, and you still lost. And you're going to lose again this week. Steelers over the Seahawks. DK Metcalf destroys his former team. Broncos versus the Colts. Now, like I said about Daniel Jones and Shane Steichen, they were playing well. They were playing smart. But Broncos and Bo Nix, they have some swagger to them. Sean Payton has some swagger. Bo Nix has some swagger that they didn't flex last week, but they will this week on the Colts. Broncos over the Colts. Falcons versus the Vikings. I like this matchup. Michael Penix Jr. against J.J. McCarthy. Both guys who competed in the national championship a few years ago, where J.J. got the last laugh, and he'll get the last laugh again in Week 2 over Michael Penix Jr. and the Atlanta Falcons. Vikings over the Falcons, not because of J.J., but because of the defense for Minnesota. Buccaneers versus the Texans. Like I said about the Texans, I just don't think this is a good year for them. Buccaneers over the Texans easily. Chargers versus the Raiders. A lot of people like the Raiders this year. I don't think Ashton Genty is going to have a great rookie season. I don't think their line is good enough. I don't think they have good enough receivers. I don't think Geno Smith is a long-term answer. Chargers look great in Week 1. Justin Herbert is finally an MVP candidate. Chargers over the Raiders. Eagles versus the Chiefs. The Super Bowl rematch we've all been waiting for. I think right now the Chiefs just aren't in as good shape as the Eagles are. Whether it's physically, whether it's mentally, I just don't think they're as good of a team right now as the Eagles are. The Eagles have the advantage mentally and physically, and that's why they're going to win this game. Go Birds. That's about Schoolyard Sports NFL Game Day. All right, Schoolyard Sports fans, let's continue episode 230 while welcoming in college basketball star Joson Sanon. Now, Joson averaged 12 points a game at Arizona State last year, but this year, be taking his talents to St. John's to help the Red Storm and Rick Pitino make another run at championships. Joson, thank you and welcome to Schoolyard Sports.
It's good. Pleasure to be on here.
Yeah, we're glad to have you on here, especially getting a player perspective. Always good to talk about college basketball.
Yeah, for sure.
So What went into your process last season? You had a great year at Arizona State as a freshman. Instead of going to the draft, instead of going back to ASU, you decided to go into the portal. And how quick of a process was it for you to land at St. John's?
Soon the portal started happening. St. John's hit my agent up, and I basically felt like it was the right spot for me, and I just went with it.
Yeah, St. John's and Rick Pitino, they built their identity last season on, let's say, consistency on defense, but not so much with three-point shooting and playmaking. What can you do to contribute to getting back to that great defense, but also helping out in the department on the offense side of the ball, getting better three-point shooting and playmaking?
As everybody knows, like I'm a great three-point shooter, great scorer. So I basically got the offensive stuff down, and I basically call myself a two-way. So I'll bring some defense to the table, and I got to be more vocal in defense and just help my teams out on defense,
Yeah, like you said, being vocal. I think Coach Pitino really respects somebody who can be vocal on the court. He's also very vocal and demanding himself. So what's a big adjustment playing for a coach who's so demanding, and have you done so far under this new system?
I think the biggest adjustment is just me being more vocal on the court. And he gets on me on that, and I take that and just work on it and practice and stuff like that. And I think that's pretty much it. And defense, that's pretty much it.
I want to go a little off the court right here. What's been the biggest off the court adjustment? I know you're from the East Coast, but then you went to Arizona State and now you're back on the East Coast. What's been that biggest off court difference of being at St. John's?
I don't really think there's any off the court adjustment. It's just because I'm from Boston, it's not really that far from, so I'm already familiar about what's the lifestyle around here in New York. So it's just, yeah.
Love it. Yeah. College basketball landscape is changing. I love NIL. I think the players, especially, you would love NIL. So what would you say is your favorite brand deal you've got? And then, how many do you have, if you want to let the fans know?
My favorite one is Adidas. I rep Adidas. And it's just like they help you build your own brand and just like guide you to like being the best player you are, to become a leader.
Definitely, yeah. NIL, great changing landscape. You've got a great brand deal already with Adidas and St. John's, Adidas school. You love to see it.
Yeah, that's valid for sure.
So you played in the Big 12 last year, a big, tough conference where you go up against national championship caliber teams like Houston, Iowa State, Kansas, a lot of great players. But the Big East isn't too shabby either. So what do you think will be the biggest difference competing in such a great conference like the Big 12 and now the Big East?
I feel like the environment in the Big East is like more like the fans more involved, like stuff like that. And I just feel like it's a little bit more like physical maybe, because that's what I'm hearing from like my coaches and stuff. It's just everybody saying it's like a different game in the Big East. So I'm just preparing myself to be like stronger and fit or conditioning, little stuff like that.
When I think of the Big East, I think of kind of the Mecca. And when I think of the Mecca, I think of schools like St. John's. You guys play at Madison Square Garden, which is one of the biggest venues in the world. Was that something you were excited for when you came to St. John's? And how excited are you to play on the biggest stage in the world for basketball in Madison Square Garden, night in, night out?
I'm super excited because, the environment, St. John's fans, I'm just already knowing it's going to be like packed and pressure is on for real.
Joson, I really appreciate this interview. Wish you and St. John's such a great time this season. Hope you guys do well on the court. Appreciate this interview.
Thank you.
Now, top 5. This week's top 5 is the top 5 players in the MLB this season. There's obviously 2 MVP awards, so I don't want to give my MVP candidates. I want to give you my top 5 players in the whole league this season. Starting out with number 5, Juan Soto of the New York Mets. When everybody else pushed the panic button, including me, I think Juan Soto really settled in as a Met, and he's number 5 on this list. Number 4, this is controversial, but Shohei Ohtani. I think Ohtani's a great player, and yes, he will probably win MVP, but not for Schoolyard Sports. I think Ohtani's had a good season, but he hasn't had an Ohtani type of season where he's been dominant on the mound and hitting. Last season, he was a better hitter, and I think he's been a better pitcher than he is right now in the past. But he's still a great player. He's number 4 on this list. Number 3, Kyle Schwarber. Kyle Schwarber should be the NL MVP. He's a DH, which I know not a lot of people like, a DH winning MVP, but the stats show it. Great OPS, great home runs, great average, great RBIs. Cal Schwarber, number 3. 2, Cal Raleigh, the Seattle Mariners catcher. Now, he fell off a little bit after the All-Star break, but he still has so many home runs. He's still a switch hitter, and he's done something not many players have done, being an elite switch hitter while also being a catcher, great behind the plate. I think we could also see him win a Gold Glove this season. 2, Cal Raleigh. And number 1, the best player in the MLB this season has been Aaron Judge. Steadily, from April until August, till September, Aaron Judge has been that guy in the MLB and for the Yankees. That's about it for my top 5 players in the MLB this season. Now, did you know? This week's Did You Know is, did you know NFL players didn't have helmets until 1943? So we'd everybody walking around Tua Tagovailoa-like with concussions all over the field probably, if we even knew what a concussion was back then, without helmets until 1943 in the NFL. Sorry, Tua, but yes, you are the concussion example. Please, please, wear the Guardian cap. We're all asking. We saw what you could do at Alabama. We want to see it in the NFL. Did you know NFL players could not wear helmets, or did not wear helmets, until 1943? That's about it for Did You Know this week. Oh, the dreadful, dreadful Dolphins. The Miami Dolphins are so dreadful, they're not even the main attraction in their own stadium this week. I'd say USF versus Miami is a huge attraction. Maybe those teams could even beat the Miami Dolphins right now. Maybe those head coaches, Alex Gillish and Mario Cristobal, are 100 times better than Mike McDaniel and the Miami Dolphins. Maybe Carson Beck and Byron Brown, quarterbacks, would be better than Tua out there on the field. Because what I see right now for the Miami Dolphins, it's pathetic. It's pathetic. They've thrown themselves in this situation. You don't have a good running back. Devon Achane is a running back 2 at best, in my opinion. Jalen Waddle has fallen off the cliff. What even happened to this guy? He was good, Jalen Waddle. What happened? We don't know. Concussions, injuries, we don't know. Tyreek Hill is done in Miami. I guarantee this is his last game he plays for the Miami Dolphins against the New England Patriots. He might be a Patriot soon before he plays in the Dolphins uniform after this week because he wants out of there, just like I don't want to watch Miami Dolphins football on my TV anymore because they're so bad. I'm not a Dolphins fan, but it's tough to watch. Mike McDaniel, a guy I thought would be an upcoming head coach, hasn't done much since his first season. He really hasn't. There hasn't been great success for this team. Brian Flores was their head coach, and we all know how that ended when they fired him. Maybe they didn't need to fire him, but Brian Flores is currently thriving as the DC up in Minnesota, while the Dolphins are rotting in the heat of Florida. It's tough to see. And I think for Stephen Ross, a great owner, and Chris Greer, a good enough GM, this is a tough product to see out there in the field. Jalen Ramsey, who we all thought was done after his time in Miami, well, he's been rejuvenated in Pittsburgh. That first game, he played great. He had the game-winning play on Garrett Wilson. He's a great player still, John Ramsey. So I think, well, why couldn't they do anything? Why couldn't they play well with him? Why does Vic Fangio, a great defense coordinator, have a player telling him to go kick rocks after he left, Xavier Howard? Because Vic Fangio was a great defense coordinator for the Dolphins, but they apparently didn't like him. And then Vic Fangio went on to do great things with the Eagles, and he was a head coach with the Broncos for a few years. So what I see from the Dolphins right now, I don't have a solution for you. I don't. But I know what they're putting out right now isn't worth it. Tua Tagovailoa is a big contract, and he can't do much with it because he can't stay on the field. What I saw on Sunday was embarrassing against the Indianapolis Colts. Now, blame me if the Colts are the greatest football team of all time, but we all know they're not. We all know they're not going to be a Super Bowl contender this year. Maybe they win their division. So the Dolphins shouldn't have lost 33-8 in a dome. Tough game for the Dolphins. Tough season on the horizon for Miami Dolphins. And that's why I'm talking about the dreadful, dreadful, dreadful Dolphins this week. Now, college football week 3 is here. I can't wait to give you my top 25 right now and then my 6 hot takes right after. So let's hop into it. The top 25 in college football. 1, Ohio State. 2, Oregon. 3, LSU. 4, Penn State. 5, Miami. 6, Texas. 7, Georgia. 8, Oklahoma. 9, Florida State. 10, South Carolina. 11, Notre Dame. 12, Clemson. 13, Alabama. 14 Tennessee, 15 Ole Miss, 16 Illinois, 17 Iowa State, 18 USF, 19 Texas A&M, 20 Michigan, 21 Texas Tech, 22 Georgia Tech, 23 Florida, 24 Utah, and 25 Mississippi State. Let's break it down. 1 Ohio State, no change for me. You beat Grambling. 2 Oregon. Oregon is one of the best teams in the country. Dan Lanning has his best team. 69-3 on a Power 5 opponent. Whew! I've never seen that before. Oregon looks great. LSU is still at 3. They've got a nice test this week coming up against Florida. 4, Penn State. They actually didn't play great, but Penn State, number 4. 5, Miami. Miami just keeps improving. Played Bethune-Cookman last week, and they've got a great showdown with my number 18, USF, this week. 6, Texas. Arch Manning. Growing pains. Georgia, really tough game against Austin Peay for them, actually, but they did end up pulling away in the end. 8, Oklahoma. Oklahoma's defense looked better than their offense, and their offense looked really good. John Mateer is my Heisman right now, and that showed against Michigan. Skip around a little bit. Let's go to 12, Clemson. Well, Clemson had a tough showing on Saturday, going down 16-0 against Troy. Tough start of the season for Clemson. 1-1, almost went to 0-2, and would have been disaster fest out there in South Carolina. 12, Clemson. 13, Alabama. They're going to keep on improving after their loss. Ty Simpson was 17-17. He played a flawless game, you could say. 14, Tennessee. Big showdown with Georgia this week. Let's go over to 18, USF. USF, the Bulls beat Florida last week, and they're going to have another shot at another top 25 opponent in Miami. If they win that game, they should be in the top 5, because then they would have 3 ranked wins to start the season. 20, Michigan. For Michigan, I just think it was a game of you couldn't do much. No receivers, no offensive line. Defense was good. Underwood was good. But if you don't have offensive line and you don't have receivers, you can't move the ball on offense, especially in the run game. And of course, the passing game. 23, Florida, embarrassing game. 24, Utah, Devon Dampmere, transfer from New Mexico, just keeps on improving, and Kyle Whittingham has a solid squad this year. 25, Mississippi State. I predicted them to beat ASU, which they did. Bring it the Cowbells, because Jeff Levy has a ranked team in Starkville. That's about for the top 25. Leave your thoughts in the comments. The 6 hot takes coming up hot next. Hot. We got the hot takes back in the house. This room is burning with hot takes, especially after our 4 for 6 performance last week. I'm looking to go 6 for 6. Perfect on the money this week, and that starts out with Friday Night Football. Colorado over Houston. Deion takes his team down to Texas, where Ryan Staub should be the starting quarterback. Deion Sanders isn't going to play Caden Salter, isn't going to play Julian Lewis. He is going to play Ryan Staub, who came out of nowhere and played great against Delaware on Saturday. Go Buffaloes over Houston. Hot take number 1. Clemson over Georgia Tech. I think a lot of people were thinking that Georgia Tech is going to win this game, that Georgia Tech, Clemson's so bad this year. They played terrible against Troy. Georgia Tech's at home. They beat Colorado. Georgia Tech's not bad. They're not better than Clemson. I think Dabo is going to get his team waking up for this game. They're going to wake up for this game ready to go, because this is a tough environment. They gave a Georgia game 2 years ago. They beat Miami last season, Georgia Tech, and they're ready to give Clemson a run for their money. But I think Clemson walks into Atlanta, Georgia, and hands Georgia Tech a big fat L. Clemson over Georgia Tech. Another great game we have, South Florida versus Miami. Now, South Florida, I said, would lose by 1 possession to Florida last week. I was just 1 possession off because they won by 1 possession. But this week, they really will lose by 1 possession to Miami. I think it's going to be a great game. I think we could even move USF up in the rankings if they lose this game by 1 possession. They're both great squads. Miami's just better. Miami over USF. LSU versus Florida. It's a trap game for LSU. It really is, because Florida is so depressed right now after that tough loss. As a Florida believer, I am too. I said this would be the roller coaster ride of a season for Florida, where you beat USF, you beat Texas, you lose to Georgia, you lose to Mississippi State. Do you beat LSU? I don't think so. I think LSU at home gets the win over Florida. Revenge from last season. Texas A&M, Notre Dame. Notre Dame started the season 0-1. They had a bye week last week, and they're not looking to go to 0-2. Now, A&M's defense looks good. Marcel Reed looks good on offense. CJ Carr, he's a good quarterback, but he's no Riley Leonard. He didn't look great for me on Sunday night against Miami. So I'm going to go Texas A&M to send the Notre Dame Fighting Irish to 0-2, all but ending their college ball playoff hopes. And the last game the game of the week. Tennessee versus Georgia. The Vols never beat the Bulldogs, but will it happen this year? The last time it happened, Butch Jones fell to his knees off a Jawan Jennings prayer from Joshua Dobbs. They're going to need something like that this week, and I think they get it. I think Joey Aguilar, Star Thomas, Josh Heupel take down the Georgia Bulldogs. Georgia's not tough this year. Joey Aguilar is. He's a Heisman contender, and Tennessee wins the game of the week over Georgia. That's about it, College Ball Showcase, and that's about it for the hot takes this week. Stay tuned for more coverage on Schoolyard Sports Instagram at Schoolyard Sports. Now, the best for last. Question of the day. This week's question of the day is, who will be the best newcomer in the NBA this season? What I mean by that is player on a new team. So whether it's Mike Brown with the Knicks as a coach, or let's go with a new player like Desmond Bane down in Orlando. That's about for question of the day this week. Who will be the best newcomer in the NBA this season? That's about for Schoolyard Sports and Lane Frank, episode 230. Thank you for tuning in. Follow Schoolyard Sports on Instagram at Schoolyard Sports. Follow Schoolyard Sports on X at Schoolyard Sport. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review for the best sports content in the world. Be back here next week, episode 231. Stay tuned.